guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm back this week with another video for you guys. But today we're gonna be doing a battle of the blenders. Once again, I'm gonna be battling out the Morphe Sponge with the famous Beauty Blender. I'm just gonna be applying my foundation and concealer with these two guys right here. I'm gonna be doing it side by side, live on my face, and I'm just gonna let you guys know, like, should you buy the Morphe Sponge or should you just stick to a normal good old beauty blender? So yeah, if you're interested in watching that, keep on watching. But if you're not a part of the Paola family yet, don't forget to subscribe to my channel before you leave. And yeah, let's get into this battle of the blenders. Alright guys, so I'm gonna be doing the left side of my face using the Morphe Sponge. This is what this sponge looks like. It is just a red sponge. As you can tell, it is not the same size as the Beauty Blender. Completely aware of that. And it is not really the same texture, but I know that the Morphe sponges are like very hyped up, so that is why I really wanted to compare it to an original Beauty Blender, because I've seen a lot of people say that they've replaced their Beauty Blender with the Morphe Sponge, and I just want to see if I would do that. And this is the Beauty Blender. I'm going to be doing the right side of my face with the Beauty Blender. This is what the Beauty Blender looks like. I know it is a little bit stained, it is a little bit dirty because I've had this for a while, but this is like my newest Beauty Blender, so it's not like I'm using an old and cranky Beauty Blender compared to a brand new sponge. I'm not gonna do that for you guys. This is what it looks like. As you can tell, it is very squishy, it is very bouncy, and that is pretty much what it looks like. And now this is both the sponges side by side. As you can tell, this is how they squish side by side. Now I know that they're not the same shape, like completely obvious, like as you can tell, it's not the same shape, but I do want to test to see which one blends the product on my face actually better. So that's gonna be my true test, not so much the shape of the blender. And yeah, that is what they look like side by side. Alright guys, so now that you guys saw these sponges side by side, I do have to say some facts about these sponges. Now the Morphe sponge is $7, so you can find this online and get a 10% off with any of those codes that are out there in the universe that I don't have. And you can get 10% off of this, which would be around 70 cents less, which would mean that this will be around $6.30 with a code plus shipping if you order online. However, you can also find this at Ulta for $7. And this right here is the Beauty Blender. This is like the world famous Beauty Blender. This is $20, so as you can tell, there's a huge price difference, and that is the way I wanted to test both of these sponges, because if that $7 sponge can blend better or the same as this $20 sponge, why not save the money and just get the cheaper one? I feel like that would be the smart choice. And yeah, I just wanted to show you guys what they look like side by side, so that you know, like, are you actually saving your money on the sponge or are you just wasting it because this is bad? Yeah, let's get into the application part of this video, because that is where I actually show you exactly how these two look side by side. So yeah, let's get into the application part of this video. I'm gonna start off by moisturizing my face, and I'm gonna use the Cetaphil moisturizing lotion because I'm feeling kind of dry today. And after moisturizing, I'm gonna go in with the Smashbox Photofinish primer and Luminizing. I'm just gonna apply this with my hands. Okay, so for foundation, I do want to use a foundation that I know works well with sponges and that I absolutely love. So I'm going to go in with the Guerlain Lingerie de Peau foundation, and this is the shade 03N, and this is the Natural Perfection foundation. It is this one right here. I've talked about this foundation before. It is like my absolute favorite of all time. So now I'm just going to do 2 pumps of that. And I did a video on the Tarte silicone sponge. If you guys haven't seen it, I will link it below. But I didn't really like this to blend my foundation, so since I already have it, what I've been using it for is just to dot my foundation on my skin. And I'm gonna do the Beauty Blender side first. And the reason why I like to use this brush to just dot the foundation, not to blend it, is because this doesn't suck up any of my product. And I dotted it all sloppily on my face, and now I'm gonna blend it with my Beauty Blender. And my Beauty Blender is damp. As you can tell, you can see how fast that was. And what I do like about the Beauty Blender is that it leaves everything so smooth. Like, you don't have to go over your foundation with the sponge too much, because it blends out really fast without taking away too much coverage. Like, as you can tell, that is it. And I do like to use the side of the Beauty Blender to blend my foundation because it's a little larger. And it's just not streaky, it doesn't leave any marks, it is just so good. that is it. I blended this in literally, what, 30 seconds? And I'm just gonna show you guys an up-close look of what my foundation looks like with the Beauty Blender. Okay guys, so as you can tell, this is what my skin looks like with the Beauty Blender. As you can tell, there's like no marks of the sponge, which I really like. It blended it very seamlessly and it made the foundation sink into the skin very nicely, and it didn't really accentuate any texture or anything, and it just blended it overall really nicely. And as you saw, it is also really fast, and it didn't really take away any of the coverage from the foundation, which is really nice because I've noticed that some sponges often do that, but this did not. So yeah, this is what this looks like, and now I'm gonna do the other side of my face using my Morphe sponge. So now I'm just gonna do the same thing that I did with the Beauty Blender side. I'm gonna grab my foundation on the silicone brush. I'm gonna dot it on my face. I'm gonna grab a little bit more foundation because I do want this to be completely fair. And I did put a little more product on the Beauty Blender side on my forehead. Like, there you go, much better. So now I'm gonna go in with the bottom part of the sponge, just the flat side. And I'm gonna bounce it the exact same way I did with the Beauty Blender. I do have to say the texture on this sponge, it is not the same as the Beauty Blender. Like, it doesn't really have the same sponge. This one's a little bit more firm. As you can tell, it is blending pretty much just as fast. I just find that with this sponge, since it is rounded on the top as well, you have to squish it a lot if you want to get very precise with your application. It's not like the Beauty Blender that has a thinner top when you can just like squish it and it's just completely fine. This one's a little bit harder to work around the eyes and the brows, especially if you already have your eyes done like me. But you know, that's not really a deal breaker. It's completely personal preference. But as you can tell, it's just harder to get around the nose. It's harder to get under the eye, and it's harder to get really close to the brow. I'm just gonna go in between my brows with the Morphe sponge. Alright guys, so this is my face side by side. This is the Beauty Blender, this is the Morphe sponge. I have not added concealer yet, I will do that in a second. But I did want to show you what it looks like side by side. As you can tell, I feel like it looks almost exactly the same, if not exactly the same. Like, I could not see a difference. I have to say it did take the exact same amount of time to blend, around like a minute for each side of my face with each different sponge. So it was like a minute for this, a minute for this, and both the Beauty Blender and the Morphe sponge blended out the product very evenly and amazingly, and none of them soaked up too much of my product, which is really nice. I do have to say that the sponge itself, it does not look the same. They have very different textures, but they both blend foundation very nicely. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do some concealer. I'm gonna go in with Tarte Shape Tape. I'm gonna put this on the very inner corner of my eye, forehead, nose, around the nose. And I'm gonna start off with the Beauty Blender side. See how quick that was? So fast. That's what I love about Beauty Blenders, they're so fast. I do have to say it's really easy to get around the nose with the Beauty Blender and under the eye. Like, as you can tell, the Beauty Blender fits right into my eye, which I really like. Okay, so I know this is my other side of my face, but if I let this concealer dry down here too much, it will crease like a lot. So I'm gonna go in with the Morphe sponge on this side before finishing off my under eye. I do have to say, to blend my concealer, the Beauty Blender is doing a little bit better because I feel like I don't have to punch my skin too much. Like, with this sponge, I have to be like, concealer blend, and with the Beauty Blender it's just like you smooth it on and it blends much faster. But I feel like that's weird because with the foundation they were like exactly the same, so maybe it's like the concealer. But I do have to say it is much easier to get around the nose with a Beauty Blender because it like molds into your face, and then this one you have to like squish a lot because, as you can tell, this is pretty big. But I know that Morphe has a Morphe sponge that is a different size. Like, they have one that looks like the Real Technique sponge, like this shape. So I guess if you had the sponge that was on this shape as opposed to this one, you wouldn't really have that problem. With this sponge, like, I can't really get much in the inner corner. Like I can, like as you can tell I just did, but it's just a little harder to get into my inner corner with the sponge. But as you can tell, I got the job done and it looks pretty full coverage. So now I'm just gonna do the very inner corner with my Beauty Blender on this side. Like that is so much easier, like just like the inner corner of the eye. Alright guys, so my face is completely done. As you can tell, the finished result is exactly the same. Like I feel like both sides of my face look identical. Now I do have to say, while the finished result looks the same, they have some differences in application as well as the texture. Like the Beauty Blender is a little bit more bouncy, it is a little bit softer than the Morphe sponge. This one's a little bit tougher and it's just a little bit harder. It reminds me a lot of the Daniel Creation sponge, which I did a video on a couple of months ago, but it is a little bit softer, so it is not exactly like this. So if you are completely used to the texture of the Beauty Blender and you feel like anything harder than a Beauty Blender you wouldn't like, you won't really like this because it is not really a dupe in texture. Yeah, just keep that in mind. But right now I'm just gonna apply some powder with the same sponges as well. I'm gonna be using my Patrick Starrr powder and I'm gonna go in with the Beauty Blender side up first. Setting the under eye, setting my face. Now going in with the Morphe sponge. Ooh, that was nice! You know, I usually don't use the Patrick Starrr powder to bake my face because I find that it is very finely milled, but I feel like with this Morphe sponge, I can actually use it to bake. Just gonna kick off the bake. This is my Sigma F64, by the way. Now I'm gonna press in any excess powder with that Morphe sponge on this side and with my Beauty Blender on this side. And yeah guys, that is my face completely done. As you can tell, it pretty much looks exactly the same. So I'm gonna go finish off my makeup and my under eye and my lipstick and all that shenanigans, and I'll be back with you guys for my final thoughts. Alright guys, so my makeup, as you can tell, is completely done now, and I think I've made up my mind about these sponges. I do have to say, I do like both sponges. They're not dupes, but they're both very, very good. I just cleaned them, so this is what they look like side by side. I still stand by what I said after I applied my makeup. This was a little bit more squishy. As you can tell, it is easier to squish. It is a little softer. This one's a little tougher, and it can be a little bit harder to squish, and the Morphe sponge can be a little bit harder to get under the eye and around the nose. But all in all, I feel like they're both very good. I approve of both of them because I've been using both of them and I really, really like them. I feel like they both blend the foundation very nicely and they both apply the powder nicely. I do have to say, I do like the Morphe sponge a little bit better for powder because it is a little more dense, so it doesn't suck up as much powder. And I do like that both sponges don't suck up a lot of my product. Of course, there are sponges, they will suck up product, but it is nothing exaggerated, nothing that will be like, oh my gosh, I'm wasting my foundation. Nothing like that on both sponges. So if you're like very used to a beauty blender and you like that this is very soft and you don't really like sponges that are a little tougher than the beauty blender, I don't think you'll be obsessed with the Morphe sponge. I just don't think it's a dupe for the beauty blender, and in my personal opinion, I wouldn't really replace my beauty blender with the Morphe sponge, but I mean, that is personal preference. I do like them both, but I do like the beauty blender a little bit better. However, they both get the job done. They both blend very nicely. However, there's a huge price difference, so that's where you kind of have to make up your mind. But yeah guys, that's it for my battle of the blenders. The battle in between the Morphe sponge and the beauty blender. They're both good, but there's some differences, and it all comes down to personal preference and how you like your makeup to apply and how you like your makeup applicator to be. And yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel before you leave. I hope you found it helpful. I mean, let me know what is your favorite blending sponge, whether it be the Morphe sponge, a beauty blender, the Real Technique sponge. I already ordered the new Sigma 3D HD sponge. I am so excited to try that one because apparently that's like, oh, the best sponge ever. So yeah, I will be trying that one out already, but if you have any other ones that I have not tried or mentioned yet, definitely let me know because I love trying new things out. And yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on my next one. Bye guys. Bye.